Freedom of speech in America started here in a trial in 1735. John Peter Zenger was a German immigrant printer of New York. Zenger printed the New York Weekly Journal. He was arrested by colonial Governor William Cosby and spent roughly a year in prison because he printed articles exposing the governor's extensive corruption. Zenger didn't create the articles, only published them. The publication's owners found a Philadelphia lawyer, Andrew Hamilton, to represent Zenger. The jury had been instructed by the judge to rule that John Peter Zenger was guilty of libel, if, under the legal definition of libel at the time, he was found to be printing anything that disparaged the governor. But Hamilton argued that the prosecution failed to prove that a single word that Peter Zenger had printed to be false. How could it be libel if he printed the truth? Then he said, "The question before the court and you, gentlemen of the jury, is not of small or private concern. It is not the cause of one poor printer, nor of New York alone, which you are now trying. No, it may in its consequence affect every free man that lives under a British government on the main of America. It is the best cause. It is the cause of liberty." The New York jury found Zenger not guilty, a precedent often cited, and the freedom to publish the truth without imprisonment began. New York was 109 years old, and it took place on the second floor of the building that stood in this place. This right eventually fueled a rebellion for the cause of liberty and for the protection of the rights of people against tyranny. Unless you were enslaved, this is the cradle of liberty and much more. Our first national government was formed here. The Bill of Rights were written here, including the First Amendment. America inaugurated George Washington, the first elected president of the United States, here. He was a man so loathing of the title that he referred to his assumption of duties as taking the chair. This place was also the host to the most deadly terrorist attack of its day, 12:01 p.m. on Thursday, September 16, 1920, when an unidentified terrorist group set off a bomb in front of the offices of J.P. Morgan. 38 were killed, and over 300 were casualties. George Washington's statue remained unharmed. Acts of violence happen over and over and over again, mostly the same way, with a car bomb or a truck bomb, or in this case, a horse cart bomb. That's except for one day when what happened was the most different act of terror the world has ever seen. It took place just blocks away at the World Trade Center. Minoru Yamasaki designed the original World Trade Center towers, which were destroyed. He was a Japanese-American who sheltered himself and his parents from a Japanese-American concentration camp during World War II because he was so very talented.
I was forming up a driveway, and it was a beautiful day.
I flipped on the television at 10 minutes to 9, and they just cut away to it.
I was in Japan. It was 11 at night, and we turned the TV on to try and watch TV. And we saw it, we watched it, and I thought it was a movie, but it didn't quite look like a movie. It didn't look right.
I had a concert that night that I really didn't want to do. Doc Severinsen was the conductor, and he came to me before the concert, and he says, "Laura, would you mind singing at the end of this concert?" Holding in all my feelings, singing Amazing Grace, 3 versions of it, each time I modulated to a new key. There honestly was not a dry eye in that hall of about over 2,000 people. And then I broke down. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found. 'Twas blind, but now I see.
think it's a testament to how connected our planet is. I think that the reason that a lot of people are angry at the Western world is justified, and nobody ever deserved to die for it, but it's almost like our sins came home to roost 20, 30, 40 years back. Mistakes that we made or mistakes that our government made came back to haunt us.
Is that good?
When the food comes with a story from your background or a memory that you did, it tastes better, you know, and then when something comes with it like that, when you share that with somebody, that's something special.
Some type of business to provide jobs for people, but when profit is put over people, you start to have problems.
Just dumb it down to make it get by in Congress, and it's not fair.
I mean, do you feel the effects of intolerance in your life?
Yes, I think there is in everyone's life, not just my life. I think from day to day there's the presence of intolerance.
Lost quite a few friends, one family member in the tragedy that should have never happened.
Well, they were firemen, and they rushed into the tower.
One of the first.
While everybody was rushing out.
One of them wouldn't leave the tower because his chief was in there, and he wouldn't leave without his chief, so he died in the tower. Then there was another man, Stephen Siller. He was off duty.
He didn't have to be here. He was off duty.
Got his uniform and all his gear from the Brooklyn Firehouse and ran through the Brooklyn with all his gear. And he came into the tower and died.
The Italian there. Can you say it the Italian for me?
Non giudicare un libro dalla sua copertina.
Is that a common expression in Italy?
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
Same as here.
Yeah.
So we are the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Big Brother was here. Everybody was watching us. We had fighter planes.
Flying over back and forth. They were, they were protecting everybody. There was no air traffic for almost 2 weeks after that.
They were all taken care of by the United States. The United States did a very good job after the fact. I'm still sorry that it did happen. It should have never happened.